So, good evening to each and every individual. Welcome to another edition of Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivos. I am so elated to be here yet another evening. So, before we go any further, as usual, well, of course, just before I introduce the members that we have here, our special guests who will be exploring on the topic Don't Cross My Boundary. I'm going to just say a short word of prayer for the new members of the audience, those of you who are currently viewing, and those of you who will be viewing, whether on YouTube or on Facebook. So let us pray. Great God and eternal Father, which art in heaven, we are thankful for yet another day. Father God, I am thankful for the audience that have been supporting me, persons who have been transformed, persons who would have been changed by the broadcast. I pray that tonight will not be any different, and that as individuals listen, that they will be able to make the necessary relevant applications to their relationships. So continue to bless them in a special way and anoint them. Have your way, we pray, through Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, so I'm going to ask, as usual, if you haven't shared the broadcast, share the link for this podcast. You can do that at this point in time so that you can be able to help somebody else who may be facing some one of these issues. So let me just introduce to you the members. I have my special guests for this evening. I am elated to have these two wonderful young women and these two gentlemen who are with us this evening. So I'm going to start in the same order in which I'm seeing them. So I'm going to start with Alicia Nelson. And Alicia is from Guyana. I happen to meet Alicia, one of the founder member of We Petition God's Throne, a group of individuals that usually pray and intercede for persons. And Alicia hails from Hopetown village on the west coast of Berbice, but resides currently in Linden, Guyana. So to all my Guyanese audience, well, you know those locations. But Alicia, welcome to Issues of Focus in Focus. And I know tonight is your very first time, and I am elated to have you here. Next up, we have a gentleman. His name is Johan Bob. For those of you who are regular viewers of this program, I remember when we were dealing with one of the issues, some things women, I will never forget the topic, some things men can never understand about women. And so we had a women's edition, and I remember Johan in the audience saying that, hey, I need to step in to bring some points to the table. And I'm happy that he is here this evening as a special guest to answer the questions and that we are going to explore this evening. So Johan hails from Barbados, what we call the land of flying fish. He is married, and to the lovely Nicola Bob. So I am happy to have Johan here. Oh, he's also a theology student at the University of the Southern Caribbean. So welcome, Johan, to tonight's program. Next up, we have Andrea Charles, one of the member of my subcommittee. We usually meet, well, not regularly, but we meet some to have discussions, to have comments on our program. So I'm happy to have Andrea here once again. She is a social worker by profession, currently, well, of course, a Guyanese, but resides in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And she is married to Pastor Alfred Charles, mother of two lovely children. And Andrea, welcome to you. And next, the final guest for this evening, we have Jamel Providence. He is, we graduated this year, so he would have graduated from the University of the Southern Caribbean with his BA in theology, native of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Jamel is a leader. You know, there are some persons who are born leaders. Yes, and I know he likes to explore relationship issues. So I'm happy to have Jamel Providence here on our program this evening. I must say Alicia Nelson is also a mother. So one of the things we did for tonight's program, while we're looking at Don't Cross My Boundary, we have married persons and we also have single individuals who will be able to address these issues. And of course, my final guest, she has joined us just in time for our introduction. I have Melissa Lequay. She Well, I remembered Melissa and her husband would have joined us when we had our one of the marriage segment that was sometime in June, July. And Mel, um, I am happy to have you here on the program with us. She is from Trinidad and Tobago. And so we have persons from a variety of places who are going to explore this topic. Don't cross my boundary. So Mel, I'm just going to do a microphone test to ensure that, oh, I realized that she had just paused a while, maybe some internet signal there. But for all of you who are viewing, I'm going to encourage you, share this broadcast to your page. There might be somebody else, someone on your Facebook page who may need this information. Just want to say welcome to Janissa, Danny, Danielle, and Sister Geraldine. And again, the only how I can know that you're viewing is if you put a comment in the comment section, whether on YouTube or on Facebook. Then is how I know that you're actually viewing the program. So Mel, I just want to do a microphone test to ensure that you're up and running. So you can put on your microphone and just say hello to us.
Hi, good night, everyone.
Great. So she is on, up, and running. Great. So we're going to get straight into it. And Betty Johnson, welcome to you. It's good to have you on the program. So we are dealing with don't cross my boundary. And so the first question I want to ask all of you is when we talk about boundary, what first of all can we define the relationship boundaries to be in your own word? How would you define relationship boundaries? All right, the usual thing I like to say this, and my audience, you see, they're laughing already. When persons, I love the fact when everybody's just sitting there waiting. I wanted somebody to begin. So because of that, I am going to randomly just call and select individuals who are going to begin talking to us. Abiola and Chanel, welcome to both of you. So I'm going to start with a young man. Oh, young men, you guys just survived this. Andrea Charles would have just put on her microphone. She would have just saved you guys by the inch. Andrea, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to be short and to the point. Boundary, relationship boundary, it is when you talk about the different types of relationship. It can be friendship, it can be marriage, right? It can be all kinds of relationship, right? And it is where you put a limit for someone to enter, right?
Hmm.
So it's like having a fence in your yard, and this is my space. This is I'm setting this space for me. So you setting a boundary in that sense.
Thank you, Andrea. Let me take Jamel.
All right.
Good night, everyone. Very interesting topic, I must say. Before I begin, let me just wish all the men viewing a happy International Men's Day. We have to
Thank you.
recognize and acknowledge the men in our midst. And acknowledge the good men who are out there who make a meaningful contribution to society and who seek to protect women and the well-being of children as well. For all the married men,
Thank you for reminding me about
the
that.
married and the single searching. God is good. um, Boundaries. When I think about boundaries, I think about protection. I think about parameters, right? I think about respect. I think about um, love too, because if it is setting boundaries for yourself, it's actually you expressing yourself in a way so the other persons can understand. We'll get into it a little bit closer as we get into our discussion, but those are the few terms that come to my mind when I think about the word boundaries in relationship.
Thank you very much, Providence. Alicia.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
For me, when I think about boundaries, I think about what makes me comfortable. Um, whether it be a love relationship with your children, as well as how I want to be treated and how I want others to be treated. So that's what comes to mind when I think about boundaries.
I love that. Thank you. Melissa?
All right, I agree with the
with everyone so far that has given their input. All right. I would say I love the word that Jamel used, respect, because we you come together in a relationship and then everyone has they can come from different cultures, right? Different backgrounds. All right, and there are certain things that I would want, you would want. So love the word respect because I see it as not being individual, but understanding where you need to just allow the individual to be themselves and for you as well to have your opinion as well.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you. So the final man who will have the final say on this, you want go ahead.
All right. First of all, good night to everybody, and happy International Men's
Good
Day
night.
to all the men out there. Now, I believe that everyone would have made some very, very profound and salient contributions thus far. I want to add my 2 cents in that. For me, boundaries represent imaginary lines, imaginary spaces where an individual, be it male or female, in a relationship, not necessarily only in relationships in regarding to love and intimacy, but also relationships with friends, relationships with mother to father. I mean, that comes in the whole intimacy aspect. But in that sense, these lines actually bring an area of safety, an area sometimes of privacy. I know I might be challenged on the privacy aspect, but some of these areas or spaces that we in, according to the Johari window, sometimes it produces the areas of some things that you don't want other people to see. So the things that people don't see are the things that you might be comfortable in. And person seeing them would then make you feel a bit outside that boundary as I just would have launched my statement.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And when I think about boundary issue, the other thing I know some persons may still be wondering in the audience is like, hey, can you help me with some types of boundaries? I'm just hearing somebody asking that question. So what I want to ask you, I know there's five of you here. So what I want to know, if each one of you can give me one type of boundary that you would have discovered, or perhaps if, let's say, at the end of the day, your turn comes around, as like you cannot think about any other that was mentioned before, and you have any point to add on one of the boundaries that was that someone would have explored on, feel free. So I'm going to ask each one of you just to name me one type um, of boundary that person should establish within their relationship.
I would like to go forward in this one. But before I start listing the types, I would like to draw an analogy everyone will be familiar with when, just to show the importance of boundaries, it doesn't have to only be in a relationship, but within your life generally, right? If we consider driving in the road, right, we see that there are lane lights, and we see that there are, when you turn in a corner, there are guys where you can flash, and especially at night where you see. That is basically a boundary to show, all right, this is the direction in which you're going. So the lane lights guide you, and it also places a boundary for you to stay within your lane.
Hmm.
Crossing that lane, crossing those lane lights on the road, or going against what the lane direction are giving, would cause you to end up in accident. All right. So as we think about boundaries, I want us to have that in mind, just to set the platform to show how important it is for us to establish boundaries even within our relationships, and more so for our lives as well. So as we continue looking at types of boundaries, I would like for us to consider emotional boundaries.
Hmm.
All right, emotional boundaries. And why I say emotional boundaries is because um persons first thing come to their mind when they hear a relationship and love. They think directly about emotions. They consider love as an emotion that they feel, right? And some persons, they get so overwhelmed and so caught up within their emotions that they tend to allow the emotions to override principle, to override their thought patterns, to override their traditions, to override even the general rules of relationship. It can cause you to, as some persons would say, I would say, to be on cloud nine, that you forget about every other thing else and you just focus on how you feel, how you get that pleasure, how these persons make your belly tingle and make your hair and your back, your hair, the back of your neck stand up, and those kind of stuff. I mean, so we can cross our lives and end up in serious accidents if we don't acknowledge and establish strong emotional boundaries for ourselves, the person we are involved with, and even for both parties within a relationship. I hope I didn't say too much.
Okay, Shabiki,
I know,
can I
wait,
interject?
Yuan. I know, listen to me. I don't, if you guys are observing, Yuan was really getting hot there. And I know for a fact that Yuan would have been the next person to speak. Yuan, go right ahead. Share with us what you have to share with us this evening.
All right, I wanna piggyback from my colleague's statement. And I want to introduce the second boundary, which I think actually pretty much ties in with the emotional, because for this boundary to be enacted, the emotion, it has to start in the emotion. So as the emotions get pregnant, it gives birth now, the physical aspect of this whole boundary, this whole
I'm
boundary
feeling
conversation. Now, Jamel, I'll tell you, he just entered a realm there that reminded me of myself. When I'm speaking on certain topics, I like to speak about myself and my experiences. Now, I'm 37 now, much younger, less mature. There are points in my life where my emotional um, actions or whatever actually came into my physical. And there were points where that I dated females and they would say, no, I'll be straight, no, all right. I don't want to put in anybody's head that I am a rapist or a womanizer or whatever, but I'm being real this evening. As a
yes.
young man, you like, this girl I dating looking fine, man. Breast
Mm,
looking nice, posterior looking nice, hips and everything, and all the meals and thing, right? The so my position was like, hey man, let me try a thing. She said no. All right. As some of us men can be very pushy, you know, you end up going again and trying no, 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 no. Then you get vexed and everything, and you get quiet for the rest of the night. Another a date comes and you try again, and then she says we need to have this conversation. We need to set boundaries because I am not your wife. You are not my husband. I am talking based on Christian relationships. And
mm,
as a man who wants to respect a female, those physical boundaries need to be set in a relationship, even in a marriage relationship, because there are times where the female or even the male would not want to be aroused to a particular point that something happens, something goes on in mind that causes not you to want to be in that emotional turn into that physical state. And if you set those boundaries, you should be respectfully met as a man or even as a female, because there's some females that can be very pushy as well, right? And I mean, people say, oh, females not created that way, but they're the interlopers that pretty much behave that way. Some men might feel a little intimidated. And in the relationship, you need to set that boundary in regards to the whole idea of the physical approach.
I have to mature. You know, when you hear physical boundary coming from a man, for all of our male audience listening and for all of our female listening, listen, take these men counsels seriously. So we had a two for we had emotional boundary, we had physical boundary. I realized Alicia and Andrea put on the mic. Okay, Alicia, go right ahead. Let me hear what is your boundary that you want to explore.
All right. The one I wanted to look at is finance. Finance plays a very important part in our relationships. And we know everybody depends on
Oh
money.
yeah.
We need money to buy things. And so we have to set those boundaries. What are we going to purchase? Especially, when you're going on dates and so on, how you spend your money when you go on the dates or how expensive you want to go. You don't want to go above what, your means and these kind of things. So you have to set those limits. Talk to your partner, let your partner know, well, hey, this is what I have and this is where we're gonna have to go and these kind of things. So you have that kind of discussion, and when you come into a family setting, you have that discussion. These are our finances. How are we gonna allot our finances? Are we gonna go way overboard shopping? Some of us women, we like to go way overboard when we go shopping,
Oh yeah.
especially around this time when we go down Regent Street and so on, and we see all these fancy things that ain't on our budget, ain't on our list, but we want to buy them. And so we have to be careful of how we are spending our money. What is it my partner and I discuss about spending? What is it we discuss about saving? And sometimes we agree, okay, whether we want to have joint accounts and these kind of things. We stick to those things. We don't want to go above and beyond or outside of those things. We want to be on the same page when it comes to finance, because at the end of the day, finance plays a key role in our relationships.
Alicia, man, I um as I listen to you speak, right? I am a woman, and we have the four women on the platform here. And one of these guys decided to ask, he made a statement. I'm not gonna say which one of the guys on that are on my special guest tonight audience, but one of them placed in our private chat column. I always wonder why women love to spend. If there's a study to show it. And I am thinking now, I know one day I have to do one of the programs on financial management or somewhere around there, examining the psychology behind women and spending. But only this afternoon, I was at Twin City Mall. And as I walked into the mall, I'm like, ooh, I'm seeing clothing and shoes, those things that appeal to women. But all I'm doing, I'm window shopping. I'm broke. I don't have money to buy, but I am enjoying the window shopping. But the point is, we understand that we women love sometimes the impulsive buying. But I love that financial women, ladies, if you have not been doing it, you see this Christmas time here, with all of us going out and buy and buy and buy. Well, always just Jamel and Joanna. This is coming from a female. And listen to this. See, this is what she said here. I don't know if you agree with it or not, but hey, women know what is needed, right? So,
What you mean women know what is needed?
all right,
That
it's
is
not how you
madness.
say it.
They think they know what they need. You see, I think women get confused with needs and wants. They see something and they want it and they make it a need. It's not really necessarily a need.
All right, Jamel. I can't wait for you to get married and sit on the panel as a married person. And we will be able to hear what you will be able to say at that particular point in that. But honest girl, thank you. Welcome, by the way, and thank you so much for your comment there. I just want to say shout out to some of our visitors, some of our special guests who joined us. We had Nadine Powell. Welcome to you, Jennifer. Sister Melissa Eastman. Sister Alicia, Rona Ford is saying a special good night to you. We had Mark Austin is viewing here with us, and Ardell Adams. So welcome to all of our viewers. It's always good to have you on the program. All right, great. So we had the financial aspect of it. I know when we have in the financial segment, I think when we're dealing with the psychology of women and spending, I have to sit and pray about those guests. those individuals who will be on that particular program. Because anyway, so thank you very much, Alicia, Joanne, and Jamel for sharing so far. So between Melissa and Andrea, what are the two other boundaries that you can explore with us this evening?
Okay, you want me to give you two or one?
Just one, but
Anyway,
Andrea, just before you go, there's a comment that came from Mark Austin, and I need to put it up because it came immediately after Alicia's statement. So let me put this up. He says, Shibiki, that window shopping thing, I really don't like it. My fiance will go in a store and walk around with me behind she. The time that is wasted there. If she see this post, it's worries. Well, I'm not going to call your fiance name, even though I know her. But fiance, please take note of your husband to be statement, right? But Mark, when we're doing it, understanding the psychology of women with finances, you will understand why we window shop a lot. All right, but thank you very much for
I,
that.
I want to interject there, right? Um, you see that comment that my brother Mark made, I can really attest to that. And I'm not going to speak on my experience. No, I'm going to speak on my parents' experience. Window shopping and going to supermarkets and all those different things. My dad would drive and what's not. My dad has an excellent remedy for that. So if the area is a mall area, my dad would go and sit in the center of the mall where where he know that my mother can find him and let her do her thing and then come back. And there's no problem. My dad communicated, I am not about this, miss me and that. So I will sit here and wait till you are ready.
I love your father already. I love him already. I hope some other men on the program take note of that. Yeah, some people need to pull a page from your dad's book. All right, good. So let's go ahead, Andrea. Go right ahead.
yeah, since Alicia would have mentioned finances, I want to connect it to material boundary, right? For friends, right? Sometimes friends would go by friends and they would see, okay, she has a top, she has a shoes or something. You need to set boundary of what you're lending, what you feel comfortable lending and what you see, what you want. You have to be comfortable with what you have rather than going out and borrow somebody things. So material is, I believe, is one of the boundary also that we should, put in.
Material boundary audience. Ashiba, good night to you also. And it's a pertinent point there. I know some of us as sisters and siblings who will just smile over that. Some friends, I don't know if you have friends like that where you just go home by them and you see things like I remember walking into one of my I have friends did it to me too. I walked into one of my friends' room and she had a skirt and I'm like, you're wearing this skirt? No, this skirt cannot fit you at this point in time. You should not be wearing that skirt, right? And just jokingly like that, she was like, no problem, just have it, and we have to, but it's a
BK,
point that we should never forget that Andrew would have made it. Yes, Johan.
that's called covetousness.
No, it's not covetousness. It's how we friends speak a language that you men will never understand. It's different.
Whoa, wow, you're
So we
getting
know
deep.
we can go by each other. And it depends on the relationship you have with your friends and even sisters. If the ladies say, ladies, what do you think about the statement I made? We have
Johan, that's an excuse that they're using. Don't worry. But you
Yes,
see,
be
we are
comfortable with
we
what
are
you have.
very small in number, Johan. So that's a battle you don't want to fight tonight. So I think we should focus on the topic of
I am
boundaries
ready for it.
because brother man, you have four women, and it seems like Shabiki has a full audience of women tonight. So let us stay in our lane tonight, Johan. Let us establish our boundaries tonight. And
I can handle it, but I'll take your advice.
smart. I love that. Smart. All right, let's go to Melissa. Melissa, which one of the boundaries would you like explore this evening?
All right. Well, I have two, right? The first one I could have talked about was spiritual boundary, right?
Hmm.
because I would remember, when I was courting, right, with my husband before we got married. I was just a church goer, all right. I would be a part of any programs, no problem, but I was not deep into God's word, right? And so when we met, he when he was a sub since he was a little boy, right? So he knew more than me, all right, and he allowed my spirituality to grow, for me to grow spiritually on my own, right? So it wasn't forced on me. So I think that, not because we are Seventh Day Adventists and we may meet someone in the church, we have different spiritual levels. All right. So I think that that one is important. And he didn't force anything on to me. I eventually it grew on to me, and I started studying God's word more, understanding it, going deeper into it. We studied together, and he really went at my pace, right? Knowing that okay, that's what have been like milk for him. He was already on meat, right? So I had to go through the milk stage, and now thank God I'm eating meat.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
The other
Yeah.
one is friendship boundary. That one is a little technical because I'm gonna say this now. I don't want the men to feel however, but as women, we know what friends our men should have, right? And we women know what we women think, right? And we know it have certain ladies out there have certain things on their minds, and things that if it is you leave your husband or your boyfriend or whoever with that individual, they know some certain things can step out a boundary. So I would say the friendship boundary, if it is your partner is telling you, listen, I find she's doing so, and you be like, I didn't notice that. Remember, ladies, the men, I wouldn't say they're blind towards it. It's just that they would always think that every female just wants to be friends, but some females are not on it, right? So I would say the friendship boundary is important. So if it is, and vice versa, the men can tell their girls, I think that guy, he onto something else, So that friendship boundary and spiritual boundary, that's my two for tonight.
Yes. Thank you very much for sharing, Mel. That last one is so, so, so important. And one of the guys said, y'all always suspicious. All right. We're not gonna argue about that. Yes, you want go ahead.
Um, what about social boundaries? So
Hmm.
your partner, and this is male or female, your partner has had some friends before. Just piggybacking on Melissa's statement. He had some
Mm-hmm.
friends or she had friends, and they're accustomed to going out. Then this female comes into the whole picture. They get married and everything. Then the female says, "Well, the guy said, I going out with Tom, John, and Mark. No, don't go with them. You can't go nowhere." Or the other way around. Honey, I going out with Melissa, Andrea, Alicia. You can't left it. Da, 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 and this and that. Before you had these friends, he met you with these friends, or she met you with these friends. And now the whole thing flipped upside down. Like you can't go nowhere with you friends. You can't even go nowhere unless I go with you. So
Hmm.
that's a big thing in relationships. I've seen it a lot, and it wreaks havoc in homes and families.
Yep, yep, yep. And I usually, the exact thing, Bob, that you would have said there, in a sense of where were you? I oftentimes ask the question, where were you when these persons would have been supporting me? They were there for me. And when I look at that, it's good to be social, and it's good to have your friendship. But of course, when we look at the emotional aspect that was explored before, and especially the physical aspect that you would have mentioned before, if we ladies or men does not see, if it seems as if the physical part especially is being cut across, it creates problems for whatever reason. But if it's just social, I know some people, well, jealousy is another whole topic we'll deal with another time, because that also, and most times it's because of jealousy, hence those statements that you made, it comes around, oh, don't go out with this person you spending too many times. But we're going to keep that particular discussion for when we're doing jealousy. But excellent submissions so far from everyone. And so what I want to know is, someone know if they have if they have boundary issues? How would they know? Is it directly seen, or what? How do people know? Just briefly tell us that.
I think you know you have issues with your boundaries when you realize that you're uncomfortable. Because here it is, I'm in a relationship. I would have said to you, these are the things I would accept, and you shared with me what you would accept. And like I would have said, when I think about relationships, I'm thinking about being comfortable. So once I am uncomfortable in a relationship, my boundaries have been, exposed. You would have intruded on my boundaries, things that you would have agreed upon and not being kept. And so it's not going to be a healthy
Hmm.
situation.
Thank you, Jamel.
In that sense, it will lead me to ask, um, was did persons establish or communicate initially what their boundaries are? Because a thing that many persons have a problem with is that they have expectations, in that they expect the other party to know what their boundaries are or what they stand for. Because, okay, let's say example, we are some Adventists, we are Christians, right? So because they know that you're a Christian, they expect certain things from that individual, or they don't expect a certain individual to do some things. So in the event when the situation happens, they get a shock because they did not communicate exactly what my boundaries were initially. And so, first of all, you have to acknowledge that either you did not communicate clearly, and even though it was communicated, did you understand the levels in which these boundaries are? Because some persons set boundaries short term, some persons set long term boundaries, some persons set boundaries only for dating relationship. Some persons say when they get into marriage, these boundaries will move. Some persons say um, they don't. Or let's say, for example, you just meet someone and your boundaries might be okay, kissing until 6 months. A boundary will move, you know? So it has to be clear as to what the boundary is, how long it is going to be for, and some persons may have events where they might um, allow situationally things to override. All these must be clear of what it is for, because, for example, the financial boundary that was mentioned earlier, I mean, there will be times where you can indulge yourself in a little spending because it's probably a birthday or something, or you probably see a sale and hey, why not catch the sale here now? You understand? So you might overstep your budget, you know. But these things must be clearly understood in order for us to really have an established strong boundary, and so that it will not be crossed.
Thank you, Jamel. Yuan,
Or you know he wants to go. Um,
I noticed your microphone on.
yeah. Again, yeah. Jamel made a very important contribution. I dabble in psychology a bit, just a tad bit, right? And I want to ask a question in regards to the conversation. How many people really know themselves? Because
Hmm.
if you don't know yourself, you can't set a boundary, which then means then that everything that happens just, and then to the point where that I think Jamel was talking, somebody was talking about being uncomfortable. Alicia Nelson, she spoke of being uncomfortable, which lends me to think now about our relationships in terms of intimate relationships with spouses, or even intimate relationships and not married. I'm being real. I know we are trying to uphold Seventh Day Adventist and Christian principles, but I believe some viewers might not be Christian or even Seventh Day Adventist, so we have to speak a little holistically. So what I'm actually saying is that when boundaries are concerned, persons have to know themselves. Um, you would find a person at the age of 13 fully knowing themselves to the point where that they will set certain boundaries. And you find that's why then at those ages, it's not advised that they should be dating per se. I'm speaking on the relationship aspect. Um, Knowing self actually puts you in a position really now to say, hey, I'm exposed to this situation. What would I do? What would I do? How would I react to this situation? When you go through those motions and ask yourself these questions, then I believe that you can set a boundary for this particular situation. And as you grow older and more mature, you begin then to be more efficacious in setting your boundaries.
Great, thank you. Melissa?
Sorry about that. I was just having a little technical difficulty. Can the question be repeated?
So we're looking at how would someone know if they have boundary issues?
Oh, all right. I'm not sure if insecurity was spoken of already. If that was spoken about already, well then hmm, it could be, you not being able to go anywhere on your own. If the individual wants to be there, or maybe they just want to be in your company all the time. They are. I don't know if obsession falls into that category. You know, it could have that. You know, these things come about with different situations. Some persons would have had it from child child growing up, with parents. They probably didn't grow up with the both parents. They probably grew up with aunts and uncles, so or granny and grandpa, they didn't really have their parents there with them. So, a sense of security from another individual, they would cling to that person um, quicker, than usual. And so, if that individual does anything to make them feel as though they will be left again, especially from being, if it is you who grew up as a child without, your parents, or you grow with your grandparents. These are just some, this is not everyone, but this is
Yes.
just some cases, you would find persons to me, you know, having, an issue with that. So I don't know if I go in contrary or if I'm on track. I don't know if anybody wants to help me with that, but that's
Valid
just my
submission.
take on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, valid submission. Andrea.
Yeah, a lot of things was wrong in my head as the topic was going on, and what I thought of is that some people, they cannot say no, right? It based on the personality type, they can't say, they just can't say no. So okay, somebody say they're coming by you, okay, you come along, you come by me, and sometimes they say, oh, can I take this from your home? Yeah, no problem, and so on. So they just can't say no. And the thing is that in the long run it affects them, right? In the long run, and that's how you will know that you have a boundary. It's you because you just you want to say no, don't do it, don't touch it, don't come by me or anything, but you end up saying yes because you don't want people to feel bad. You don't want people to feel bad or so you end up saying yes to everything, and that is where someone would know that they have a
All right. Thank
boundary
you very
issue.
much, Andrea, for underscoring that point. All right. So what I want to know is in terms of socialization. Can socialization within the context of the family, especially parents, influence an individual boundary pattern positively or negatively in the relationship? Can socialization play any part in boundary issue being negative or positive? Let me just hear your responses on that.
If I should
Um,
go first before everybody, there is the theorist, the attachment theorist John Bowlby. He talks about when the children take after the parents, whatever the parents does, right? That is what the child would do. So they would pattern after that parent, right? Or their parents, I should say. So in other words, they're following in the footsteps. So and when I read a little bit about it, it talks about sometimes we parents don't know how to talk to our children. Different stage, different way of talking to our children. And sometimes it can negatively impact our children in terms of
Yeah.
boundary setting, right? In terms of boundary, because especially for a teenager, there is not everything that works for a teenager. And sometimes we expect that, okay, you don't do this, don't do that. We set boundary for them, but are we taking the time to actually get to know to speak properly to that teenager? And in other words, that teenager would carry on that same thing. So it can negatively impact and it can positively impact because if that parent denies, give good boundaries and so on, that teenager would carry on good boundaries. I'm not sure if I'm making sense, if you're understanding what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank you,
that's
Jamel.
my point.
yeah, that was great. To touch on the point I was actually going to say, but in addition to what parents would pass on to their children, it lends to another important aspect of socialization, whereby the environment, the community is surrounded plays a significant role. Now, let's look at the school setting, and even okay, just okay. First of all, let's look at the school setting. Um, the children spend most of their time in school, most of the day in school, actually. So what they learn from their teachers and their peers, um, automatically, inevitably, will be transferred to them. In addition, um, the the way we are living right now, how the world is going virtual, and technology is on the increase, parents are now required to spend more time working, trying to get into a job that they don't have enough time to properly train their children, and the TV is growing the children up. Now, they will obviously do what they see on television because Hollywood, lights, New York, it's all what they know and what they like, so it is what they're going to do. And to close my point, contribution this evening on this question, um, another aspect we have to look at too is how the person, the parties, both parties communicate in a relationship because um, we are cultured differently. Let's say if I meet a guy and I mean, it would be totally different from how I grew up in St. Vincent or what I would have learned here in Trinidad. And so those aspects will play either positively or negatively in how the um, socialization of each individual and what they bring into relationship in terms of establishing and maintaining boundaries.
Yes. Thank you. Johan?
There's an old adage that we all are familiar with. It says birds of a feather flock together. In regards to family and socialization, that can fit right in there. So for example, again, parents, mom and dad, the way how they operate, they are seen by their children. As my friend who lives in St. Vincent mentioned, I can't remember her name right now. The first lady who started off everything from Guyana. Um, what I'm getting at is that what children see in the homes, they replicate in their lives even as they go into adulthood. Maybe when they go off to university or college in a different country, let's say they are privileged enough to, it might break based on the other birds now that they actually meet, and then they flock together as well. So in relation to boundaries, the boundaries that your parents may have taught you or you might have seen in the home, you might lose them when you leave the home. Or on the transverse or the converse, the lack of boundaries that you might not be taught in the home from seeing and socialized in the home, you can then actually pick up from other people as you grow older and you leave that home base. So it can go in both ways, negatively and positively.
Alicia, yeah.
Okay. When I think about the question, I'm more or less thinking about your relationship as a couple. Yes, it can be both positive and negative. Because here it is, as a couple, you and your spouse already have your boundaries. So let's say we're having guests over. They are not aware of our boundaries, and that's why communication is very important. And so they will come and we're interacting, and so they might say or do things that we aren't comfortable with, that is outside of the norm that we will have. And so they can have a conflict there. So that can be negative, or it can be positive in the sense that I communicate, my spouse communicate with the family so they know what to expect. And so when we come and we communicate, we interact, there's a positive influence, a positive environment. Nobody is mashing on anybody's toes, and we're all having a good time. And that also comes to the point where you know yourself. But sometimes we are so scared how we grow up. We're afraid of our mothers or our fathers or so. So when they come, we're just going to indulge in them because we don't believe that, okay, when we set these rules, we can stick to it. Like the sister said before, we are afraid to say no because, oh, there's my parents or maybe some big auntie that come from outside, they come from overseas, so we could indulge in them. Not you set boundaries regardless of who the individual is. Boundaries are there, you maintain them regardless of who they are.
Thank you very much. Melissa?
All right. I love that question because a lot of people think that their in-laws are monster in-laws, right?
Hmm.
So this is a really nice question, right? Um, I would say it has its positive and it has its negative. So I'm gonna go with the negative first, and you always end with the positive, right? All right, now, okay, so you'd come into the family and they have their culture. All right, they do things a certain way. They would have two baths during the day. Where you come from, you bathe once a day. All right, and it would intimidate you. I'll tell you, right? It would intimidate you because okay, you're seeing they're having a bath in the morning and then you custom, all right. I get up in the morning, I do what I have to do. I would bathe when I don't do everything, and that's one bath for the day. But you would feel a how because okay, everyone is bathing in the morning and you still have on the same clothes from since in the morning until in the evening and they already change again, right? So it has its pros and cons. So to me, you know, if it is want to, tell you how to do this, how to do that, and they're not, willing to hear from you. Like, okay, I know how to curry chicken a certain way, according to the cricket recently, right? We would say curry chicken in Trinidad, all right? And in the other country, they would say chicken curry. Nothing is wrong with that, all right? So I would say, um, negatively, it could have an impact if the individuals, want that to happen. All right. If they, they want that to enter into their relationship. Because remember, when you marry to that person, when you come into a relationship, that person is your family. The other people become your relatives. All right. So positively, I would say taking 2 baths a day is not a bad idea. All right. So if it just
Right.
go take 2 baths, try it. You might like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that's the
Exactly.
positive side to it. You want to help yourself.
Thank you very much, Mel. I want to say welcome to Peter on YouTube. And so I just want to put up the comment that he made here on this question. Um, let me see. Yeah, I'm trying to connect it to ensure. All right, I think this was related to one of the questions that was asked before. How would people know?
Yeah, the first
Yes,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
how would people know? But welcome, Peter, and hi, Miss Pamela Morgan. Welcome to you also. So, in addition to that, what I want to know from you guys is this. Um, Ken, I want us to we've been talking about boundary issues, but one of the boundary issue that have not been explored in terms of personal boundary. So what I want to know is, can you give us some example? Well, just because of time, for the interest of time, for each one of you, just give me one practical example of poor personal boundary issue. So at least members of the audience who are listening in, they can be able to say, hey, definitely, this is it, you know? So can you give me that? And on that note, while you're pondering on that question there, I just want to extend a special birthday greetings to Miss Pamela. Miss Pamela, you're having special greetings from us here. Issues in Focus, and I do trust and hope that you will have a fantastic rest of the. Well, I hope you had a fantastic day, and even into this evening, I hope that you will enjoy it, Miss Morgan. So have a blessed one, and even for anybody else who may be celebrating their birthday. Oh, on that note of celebration, I want to publicly acknowledge my dean, Dr. Fasaduddin Hussain. He is not on at the moment, but I know he was on Monday, on Tuesday night when we had our session. So we just want to say happy birthday to Dr. Faz also. And I just want to wish him and everyone who may be celebrating the birthday or anniversary a happy one. Enjoy. All right, great. And Julia's work, welcome. Good evening. So back to the question that we have to deal with. Can you give us each one of you, give me one practical example of poor boundary issue?
Okay. So when I, when I first started contribution, I talked about boundaries being imaginary spaces or imaginary lines that you're in, and if a person invades that, you feel uncomfortable. No, the situations where that persons invade once or twice, but based on the pattern, when this person invades and you speak up against it, and this person fights you down, and it
Hmm.
comes to a point where emotional abuse is present, physical abuse is present, and then at that point you are so backed into this corner that everybody that now comes to invade your space, you don't want to say anything because you're afraid of how they will respond or how you are treat or how you'll be treated. So for me, that's a poor, that's an example rather of a poor personal boundary.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing. All right.
I would jump in to say, um, when you find yourself unable to make decisions independently, I would say that is a serious flag. A red flag so big, like it's so big, like the national flag that's be flying in Macoya, in Trinidad. Everybody could see it. That's a big red flag, you know. Because if it is that you are losing your sense of individuality in a relationship, then yeah, you let the all guards and crossing all
Far
boundaries.
gone. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Excellent submission there. All right, Alicia.
For me, I think having this feeling that you can't do without the person, you can't think, you can't sleep, everything for you is consumed around this individual. If it's a relationship, so for me, I think that that's it, and not being able to express what is it you want. That's something that some
Yeah, and
people struggle
even
with.
before I take Mel's point, one of the things, some of those the romantic music that we like to hear, we like to listen to. You know how many of them have major cut across of personal boundaries?
I don't want to live a day without you.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
how could I live
How
without
can
you?
I live a day without you? It's like when it's like I'm sitting here and as I ponder on those music that I oftentimes, well, wow, Shibiki, you have grown. I've not been listening to soul music like I haven't listened to one in months, which is Shibiki, you have grown. But why I'm reiterated that, because right through my secondary school life, even into college, um, the beginning of my USC journey is like I have to get my soul music. But it's like as you continue to grow and you ponder on the lyrics of the songs, like, hey, bro, they're not teaching me anything good. Is like, I mean, some of them are very nice, by the way, very, very nice. Some of them I love them, but then some of them they cut across personal boundaries. And imagine singing all the time. You're singing, singing, singing. I'll cross the ocean for you. I'll go and give you the moon. It's like you will do the impossible for that person, even if it means you going to your death or things like that. So we gotta be very careful of what we listen to. Mel.
Yeah, I was going to stress on that point you was making, Shibiki, because really and truly, even in the movies too,
Yeah. True.
a lot of shows you would sit down and you would watch with your spouse and you'd be like, he doesn't do that. She
Hmm.
doesn't do that. If it is you go to sit down and watch these shows and expect your spouse to do it. I even see memes right now on social media where um they're showing you, okay, this guy doing push-ups and he has his spouse or girlfriend on his back. And then they're showing you in reality you have someone that you cannot do that with. All right. So I mean, you have to have you have to know who you are, your character, who you want to be in life, and don't live based on what social media has. Because really and truly, as Jamel said earlier on, a lot of parents are allowing their children to be brought up with social media, with the TV, with the shows and the games and all these things, so that they don't know to go outside and kick a ball, throw a stone at least,
True.
right? So I would say that having your personal character, your identity is something that is important before you even begin a relationship, because you have to know what it is you want. You have to know your standards. You have to know um what you're about. Okay, even so that when you do meet the significant other, or according to the slows, what did I say? My best half, or the one I can't live
Better
without.
half.
However, they may, they say, you know, you have to know, okay, no matter what happens, no matter who comes into my life, this is who I'm going to be. I'm not going to allow, the other person to change me, or I'm not going to change the other person. But I'm hoping that the life that I live would encourage that individual to want to be independent and have a character of their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mel. Andrea, you have the last say on this question.
Yeah. Well, boundary, right? It's sometimes when I think about it, it can cause enemies, right? It can cause enemies and so on. And I believe that if something reaches a point that it is totally affecting you, you made a decision and then afterwards it totally affects you. I believe that it has it's poor personal boundary, right? We shouldn't make decisions and get affected. I admire people who can say yes and can say no. I admire people that can say that, right?
Yeah.
And like I always mentioned before, is that it has to do with our personality. For me, it is really hard, right? And sometimes I believe I am that one person that would think and so on because you're making it yet. You need to stand firm on that decision because it will affect you and that will cause poor personal boundary.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea. And even as we are on our penultimate question, I really want us to underscore this evening. What I want to know in terms of what if, because there might be somebody in the audience who may be asking the question, oh, so if my partner, I discover that they have an issue, what should I do? So the question I want to ask throughout to you guys, what should an individual do, or what do you propose an individual should do if they discover that their partner has poor boundary issues?
Help
First,
us.
I think you discuss it. This is what I observe. You talk about it, but then if it continues to persist, you see if you can get help. If the person is not willing to get help, if they can get help, let them take the help. If they're not willing to, you observe and see where if there's any progress, and if it's not progressing in any way to benefit both of you, then you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I would say if you're having challenges establishing boundaries, maintaining boundaries, having discussions about boundaries, but then you need to check yourself. You
Hmm.
need to check yourself. You need to take some time, get to know yourself, and develop yourself as an individual. Because you cannot be in a relationship where you don't have any standards. Where your standards are. What principles are you standing by? What is guiding you as an individual? You know? And that means you have nothing to bring to the relationship. So you are dead weight in a relationship. Because the other person has to now maintain their own standards if they have any, and also try to instill something in you, which should have been your parents' duty. So probably need to go back home to your parents and let them start to train you all over again. And ladies and gentlemen should not be entering a relationship expecting a person to be like a parent to them. That's why God gave
True.
parents so that they can parent you. A relationship is to complement you. You understand? Not to shape you, not to try to teach you principles. I mean, there will be additional principles that you will learn and add to your repertoire as an individual and you go into a relationship. But if it is at the initial point where you don't have your own standards, I tell you, you need to you are not ready for a relationship. Clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Mel,
and
okay. Oh, go ahead, Andrea.
yeah, Jamel, as he was talking, I thought of low self-esteem. Those with poor personal boundary, they have a problem with self-esteem. They need to bring that up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I would say peer pressure as well. You would be probably hanging with a crew that everyone is coupled off, and sometimes that person maybe just don't want to have a relationship, or if it is they do have a relationship, they have issues, so they probably just stay away from it. But if they do eventually get into a relationship, I would say that according to Alicia and Jamel, they need that help because I mean that basically the only thing other than prayer. All right, we need to pray for that
Yeah.
first, and then the consent can take place. But if it becomes physical,
Hmm.
then That is something to consider. According to Jamel, that's where the parents came in. But a lot of us, um, I wouldn't say a lot of us, but it have cases where individual live in home still, and so their parents do everything for them. They iron, they wash, they cook, they clean. They even say about their children if they if they have children before marriage. So it have so many things that they just be tied up and twisted up. So a lot of that poor boundary could take place.
Thank you, Mel.
Hey, this is a very interesting question. I don't want to sound preachy, and I don't want to sound cliche, but we always seek help from God. That's one of our first, actually, yeah, that's one of our first, or actually the first and the ultimate um, being that can help us. And I believe that God has allowed persons to help you as well. So there
Sure.
are persons who are counselors, there are persons who are psychologists, and all the above. Now, if it comes to a point where that help might not be heeded by the partner, because in our society, especially in Caribbean, most people think that when you go to seek help from a counselor or from a psychologist, you're mad,
Yeah.
right? You're mad, and that's a big barrier that we have in the Caribbean. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise than that, I really think that even before marriage, you would see that the person has poor boundaries, and what is always recommended is communication. Poor communication would continue to encourage bad boundaries, because there's some people that when a situation occurs to them, they might speak about it, as I mentioned earlier, but you would find that the other person doesn't, because this whole thing of ego. This is how I believe I should be, because this is how I saw my father treat my mother, or how I saw my mother treat my father. And it begs me to also go into another area where that we should try to find out how things happen in the home when you dating this person, because you going on some very crazy lines if you want to really choose this person as your spouse. Because if this person doesn't want to change, my friend, I ask that you leave that person alone. You don't want to allow
Hmm.
them of horror, and you don't want that ever to pass on to any child that you guys bring to this world. Because
Yeah.
monster behavior begat monsters. So yeah.
Real talk. Thank you very much, Yuan. I just want to say welcome to Miss Cora, Aline, Fran. Welcome to both of you. And so, what I want to do, even as we bring this broadcast to a close, I want each one of you to give me maybe a few, like anything that you think we would have missed or something pertinent that you would like to share with the audience very briefly. You can do so at this point in time as we close this broadcast officially.
Okay, if I might go, I would just want to say to all those who are listening, even to us with ourselves, it might just be a reminder that boundaries are your protection. Boundaries are meant first of all for you. Um, it is there to establish respect. And I just want to say that people treat you the way you allow them to treat you.
Yeah.
And basically how you treat yourself. It will reflect if you are loose and slack, don't have any boundaries. It is exactly the same way persons are gonna come into your life, like locusts coming in to just eat you away and leave you with nothing for yourself. And
Mm.
that's a very dangerous state to be in. And for us to be healthy individuals, not just physical health and physiological health, but mental health, we need to protect ourselves by establishing boundaries.
Excellent summation, Jamel.
Yeah, I want to jump in there quickly. There's a book that I read some time ago called Dark Psychology, and it spoke of persons with the narcissistic um, attribute to themselves. You would find that narcissists have a keen eye of finding persons or pretty much lending themselves for persons that don't have boundaries or very poor boundaries.
Yeah.
To both male and females, I want to encourage you right now to know yourself. Know what makes you uncomfortable. Seek persons around you that you can talk to, because it's always good to talk to other people about these issues. I mean, sometimes we get carried away talking about what his buddy got on and what his buddy doing in their life. But for development, you need to continue speaking with other persons that might be older than you to show you exactly how can I know more about me? How can I ward off those persons that try to attack me because of my so-called low boundaries, especially those narcissists? Please, people, please, people, check out for narcissists. Yeah, they can ruin your life. I'm telling you, men and women can ruin your life. But my overarching principle is to know yourself, know what you're uncomfortable with, so that you'll be able then to draw those imaginary lines and put yourself in that box.
Beautiful, Joanne. Beautiful. I love how you, and I think, as I'm listening, for some reason, the order for tonight's program, I am just getting a whole lot of ideas for some new programs, some new topics, and I'm happy that persons are bringing up that, and that you shared there, Joanne. It's something for us to explore that type of behavior that many persons project, and many times we don't even take note of it, or sometimes people don't even know it exists, and so that they don't know what to look for when that happens. But thank you for Alicia.
Okay. Boundaries are very important. They help you to feel safe, respected, and one thing I would like us to remember: it is very, very important to communicate your boundaries. Never assume or guess that the person, your partner or family members know. You must communicate that to them, and when you communicate that, remember to follow through, right? Not just, oh, I already tell them so, whatever they do. And if you realize that somebody would have crossed that boundary, speak up about it. Do not accept it and accept whatever they're doing. You set a boundary, follow through on what it is. Because sometimes persons cross our boundaries and we just relax, and then when things happen, it's way beyond our control. So we need to set boundaries, not only in relationships with partners, but even in our relationship with our children, relationship with our parents. We need to set boundaries. They are very,
Excellent,
very
excellent,
important.
Alicia. Thank you. So we have Andrea and Melissa.
All right. You need to save your relationship. Save your relationship. In all of the relationship, marital relationship, children and parents relationship, you need to save your relationship by setting boundaries, right? And also learn to say no. You know, no doesn't mean that you don't love the person. You know, it just means that you want healthy relationship and you want persons to understand where you
Nice.
stand.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you. Love that. Melissa.
An elderly person once told me, once you stand for something, you cannot fall for anything. And, I heard that saying and didn't understand it at the time, but with time, with age, with maturity, once you stand for something, you cannot fall for anything. So I just want to leave that with
Oh yeah, I love
our
it.
viewers
I
tonight.
love it. So I just want to use this opportunity and say thanks to all the members of the audience. Oh, I noticed Curtis would have joined us. Curtis, yeah, very well. I know you're a regular viewer on the program, so I'm happy that you're tuning in tonight. Sister Marva Peter, good to see you also. And to all the viewers, of course, many persons do not necessarily say hello or say good night, but thank you all for tuning in once again. Remember, we are streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 to 8 the latest, based, well, depending upon the topic that we're dealing with. I want to extend special thanks to our guests, Alicia Nelson, Joan Bob, Andrea Charles, Melissa Liquai, and Jamel Providence. Thank you for accepting the opportunity, or what should I say? Um, Sharing your wealth of resource with us this evening. And I'm certain that the members of the audience, they were able to benefit in some way or the other. Brother Victor Stewart, welcome to you also. Great. So at this point in time, to bring to the curtains down on tonight's podcast, I'm going to ask Brother Jamel Providence to close us in prayer.
Certainly, let us pray. Our kind and Heavenly Father, we give you thanks, O God, for allowing us to see yet another evening whereby we can just share, to encourage each other, dear God, to build each other up, and to help those who are suffering and who are in need of. We thank you, God, that this program is available, and I pray that you will continue to bless this ministry, dear Father, so that many persons can be encouraged. Father, for those tonight who are suffering from establishing and maintaining boundaries, God, I pray that you will give them a sense of identity, help them, oh God, to find the true meaning for they were, or we are all created in your image and after your own likeness, oh God. So we ask, oh God, that you help them to search for you so that they can have an identity, so that they can be able to establish strong boundaries. We pray for those who are in relationships, we pray for those who are seeking relationships, we pray for God for those who are in relationships and having challenges, God, that you will step in, create and grant deliverance, oh Father God. Bless us the rest of the night. And ask that your Holy Spirit come to reign through us, so that we can be good representatives for heaven as we wait eagerly anticipating your second coming. Is my humble prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. So thank you once again, Sister Grace Judge. Good to see you. And I'm going to see you all again on Tuesday Gospel Live. God bless you all.